Hey vlog, I am picking up pretty much exactly from where I finished my last vlog, and we're going to be starting a week in my life vlog. Now this was going to be a normal week in my life where you just kind of get to see how much I read and stuff. But I'm on antibiotics at the minute, which is not great because antibiotics really mess with my stomach. So I've been feeling like shit for days. I have wisdom tooth problems, keeps happening to me. I'm waiting to get them removed. I've had one removed. Over here they do them one at a time, and the wait time in between is about 7 to 9 months. So who knows when I'm actually going to get it removed. So the minute I'm on antibiotics until the infection goes away, it means A, I'm not sleeping, and B, my stomach is not right. So overall, it's not been a fun time. So a week in my life as I feel like and let's see if I can read anything. I spent the whole weekend last weekend reading a romance for a vlog that will have already gone up by now and watching Bridgerton. We're going to continue with that. We're going to lean into it and we're going to watch Bridgerton. I'm nearly done with Bridgerton, so I need to find something else to indulge in. Probably a boatload of Jane Austen adaptations. And then we are going to read some romances. Now, because I'm watching Bridgerton, I'm in my Regency. Now, I don't have that many Regencies to read. I have a Regency and I have a Victorian. So we're going to see what I'm feeling. My options are, I can either read Reputation by Lex Croucher, which I've very recently purchased, and it is pitched as if Bridgerton and Fleabag had a book baby. Now, I've not watched Fleabag. It doesn't really seem like my thing, but this does sound very good. Now, I don't know if this is even adult or YA. I don't really care, to be honest. I just want to have a good time. I don't know if it's spicy either. I have no idea, really. So we have this one, and then we also have a Victorian one, which is Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. This is one of the ones that I got catfished into initially, where it's like, list with Regency romances on it, and this one comes up. But this one is 1879. Anyway, moving on. So it's going to be one of these two. I don't know which one yet. I'm going to do a dice roll for it, I think, because I've got my dice right here, my TBR dice. Some 4-sided dice. So what I'll do is, if it's an odd number, I'll read Reputation, and if it's an even number, I'll read Bringing Down the Duke. That seems like a really adult way of going about this. What are you? That's a 3. All right, then. We're reading Reputation by Lex Croucher. Don't know a huge amount about this, apart from that tag. It says, for Jane Austen. Sorry, Jane. Love that. Let's read the synopsis. Regency just got a little more rebellious. In big fun, right? This is serious. Abandoned by her parents in favour of a sea view, middle-class Georgiana Ellers has moved to a new town to live with her dreary aunt and uncle. At a particularly dull dinner party, she meets the enigmatic Frances Campbell, a wealthy socialite and enchanting member of the in crowd. Through Frances and her friends, Georgiana is introduced to a new world of wild parties, drunken debauchery, mysterious young men with strangely alluring hands. We've got a hand fetish going here. And the sparkling upper echelons of Regency society. But high society isn't all it's cracked up to be, and the price of entry might be more than Georgiana is willing to pay. All right, then. Well, we'll give that a go. Let's have some fun. This is all I read in this vlog. It's all I read in this vlog. The likelihood is this is going to be the entire content of the vlog. I might have recovered a bit better by then, in which case I am desperate to read an epic fantasy. I've been feeling so crappy for so long now. I would really like to read an epic fantasy. If I survive this, then epic fantasy is next on the cards. And then it would be whether or not I read my book club pick, depending on how many neurons are actually functioning at the same time. Or I read another book that I don't need to quite analyze quite so much because it's not for a book club. We shall see. We'll see where this vlog leads. We will see where it goes. We made cookies last week, as in like a few days ago, because it's only Monday. And we still got some left over. So we'll hopefully be able to have those this weekend. And do I have any other plans this week apart from being a social pariah? I don't think so. I don't think I have anything planned, which is nice. So my plans at the moment are literally survive, watch Bridgerton, let it keep you alive, and we'll see where this goes, because I am having a time. So I'm gonna go make myself some breakfast. I'm gonna take you with me so you can go see my cat, because I've turned into that kind of cat mum. At the minute on my Discord, I send cat photos. That's who I am as a person now, apparently. Bear in mind, I have never had a cat before. We've looked after the neighbours next door to my parents, had to move back to the UK quite abruptly because she was unwell. So then my mum and dad took over taking care of their cats because they couldn't like organize the whole like getting the cats back kind of thing. So we kind of had those cats, but they weren't like indoor cats. They weren't, I really liked them. They eventually became our cats, but I've never had a cat that was mine. So here I am with Gigi, who is now my cat, apparently, to the point where he follows me anytime I go in the kitchen, and he has the longest meow. Like he will scream at me. It's not like a cute like, oh, you know, look like you've got food, like meow, would you like to give me some? It's like, bitch, give me some food. It's so funny. I gotta appreciate someone who knows what they want, you know. So I'm gonna take you downstairs. I'm gonna make myself a coffee and a sandwich, show you my cat, and we'll get on with the day and start with some Reputation. And it's got a very Bridgerton vibe with these going on as well. So, you know, at least in keeping. I've got one vibe going at the moment, which is brain rot in a good way. So we're going to take my cotton and lavender bookmark that I got given for free when I bought my candle. Did I show you guys my candle? I know I put it on shorts, but I know not everyone watches shorts. Allow me to show you my candle. It's a hot chocolate candle. Isn't it stunning? Isn't it so pretty? Oh, I can't wait to use it. I absolutely cannot wait to use it. I'm going to take some photos with it first because of who I am as a person. So my Instagram's going to suddenly just be like a million photos with that candle in it. But for now, I can't be asked to do that. So we're going to go watch and read and eat. It's who I am as a person. So it's Tuesday. I didn't do an awful lot of vlogging yesterday because I was a bit out of it. I'm hoping I'll be able to do a little bit more today. Obviously, vlogging in the afternoons is a little bit more complicated for me during the week because my kids are home and I don't have them on camera. So I am going to try and vlog quite a bit throughout the morning this morning. I'm hanging out with my husband this morning. He's going to go over my book that I've written with me a little bit. He's not long finished it, so I want at the minute literally just overall thoughts, I suppose, on what I've written, as opposed to any typo errors or anything like that. I want an overview of the plot at the moment, so that's where I'm at. But that might take up a considerable chunk of the morning, so we'll see how much I'm actually able to vlog, because I don't want to keep interrupting those discussions to update you on nothing. I am, however, halfway through Reputation now, and I am really enjoying this book. It's just so easy to sink into. It's such a fuck the patriarchy vibe. It feels very much like a contemporary book that is set during this time period. I don't feel like the author is trying to do an accurate representation of mindsets and behaviors of the time period. She is satirizing them and she is making commentary on the time period, but I don't believe that the author at any point felt like the behaviors that are presented here are actually accurate to the time period. And that is fine for me. I think when it comes to Regency romances, I've said this before, that I care less about accuracy than I do in a more serious historical fiction, right? So, for example, you will find me being substantially harsher on the likes of Philippa Gregory than I will on Lex Croucher. I've talked about this before, so for anyone who has already heard me rant about it, I'm sorry. I feel like a lot of Regency romances, most people are not reading a Regency romance because they want to know the history better. No one is picking up this book or a Tessa Dare book or the Evie Dunmore one that I've got later to understand the 1700s and 1800s better. You know, no one's picking them up and going, oh, I got so much information. I read Tessa Dare. I read this woman that was banging a guy, right? I read this upper class woman that was banging a blacksmith and no one cared. You know, she managed to marry him. No one batted an eyelid. And now I know so much about the Regency era. you know? Oh, thank God. Thank God I read Reputation. I know everything you could need to know about the Napoleonic Wars now. No one's doing that. You are reading it for the romance, and the setting is there to create conveniences and difficulties in equal measure. Right? We read Regency romances because we are wanting the level of angst and social difficulties and compromises and pressures because they are different to our own. And so to us, now they feel more compelling. The obstacles feel more realistic. I've said this before. I really struggle with third act breakups in contemporary romances because most of the time they feel so contrived because our world has made romance relatively easy. There are very few situations in which a couple cannot stay together, where they are forced apart, which means that normally then you need them to separate for a different reason because of something that they have done, and then that interferes with my belief in their compatibility or belief in their love for each other. While with the likes of historical romances, there are so many things that would pull a couple apart, and there are so many things that would push a couple together who do not want to be together. So even the like fake dating or the forced proximity make more sense, feel more enhanced in a historical setting. So I always feel like I engage with that more because it takes me away from the real world, and also I don't have to analyze it as much. So yes, I will be more critical of straight-laced historical because I think that it can be incredibly damaging. I mean, look at the damage that Philippa Gregory has done to multiple people in her books, and people believe her is the problem. You know, people believe. No one ever considered Margaret Beaufort as a genuine person of interest in what happened to the princes in the tower until Philippa Gregory wrote about it. And then everyone loves to spin that theory and act like, oh, I've always thought that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because no one thought it. Actual historians have never considered her a viable option. We know so many of her movements. We know she was confined to her house. We know she was someone who was incredibly observed, because at this point we still had both Richard and Edward sending people out to assassinate Henry. We know so much about where Margaret Beaufort was. And Margaret Beaufort did not have the same level of influence as many of the other candidates. Not to mention that her husband, at this point, would not have risked the level of risk that would come with killing someone who, in the eyes of many, was a king and his brother. And yet, so many people now are like, oh yeah, it's definitely Margaret Beaufort. It's like, no. Just because you like Richard, you know? So I can't stand historians that when they peddle these theories, it gets taken as fact. Now, I hate the readers that do that just as much. I'm very sorry if that's you. I love you. But please, when you read historical fiction, understand that it is historical fiction. And if it brings you to a conclusion that you hadn't previously had, maybe do some research to be sure that your conclusion isn't just a well-written story. I'm getting off track. So with books like this, I love the drama. I'm fine with it reading like a contemporary book with girls with contemporary mindsets, girls who want to go get drunk in the back of the house at a party. Love it. Here for it. You know, I'm here for the friendships. I really do like our protagonist. Georgiana is an interesting one because she is someone who is a little bit of an ingenue. She is a little bit like, she hasn't had a huge amount of time out in society. She hasn't gone to like a lot of balls, and then she has like this odd relationship with her aunt and uncle that she's staying with. I like her because she is, I mean, we have several tropes in here for Georgiana, which I don't mind. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's another one. So, you know, like for example, she loves retiring and hiding in the library kind of thing when she gets home. That's fine for me, especially in this case, because it shows layers to the character. You know, she is someone who cares about her mind, who wants to go and read, but at the same time, she is someone who wants to get pissed with her mates. You know, I'm here for it. You know, I appreciate that. Nursing a hangover in a Regency library is an interesting combo. So I like that. I don't know. Frances is very interesting. I do wonder, Frances feels like the kind of woman who, when you're reading about the more downtrodden, will never manage to marry, will never get herself a husband kind of girls, I feel like Frances would read like a villain. Like, not because she's a bully or anything. She's no Cressida Cowper from Bridgerton. But it's more just that she is someone who can do all of these things. She can mess up as many times as she wants, in a way. And eventually, I suspect that it will take something very intense for society to completely shun her because of her situation in life. So I am very curious to see where the second half of this is going to go. I'm excited to see how the potential interpersonal relationships, shall we say, are going to develop throughout the second half. And I am very excited to just hang out with these girls for a bit longer. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go continue reading. I'll let you know my thoughts on it once I'm done. Or maybe before if I have something of note to say. I have finished Reputation by Lex Croucher. I had a good time with this. This did what I wanted it to do. Do I feel like it's like revolutionary? No. Am I like super addicted to it? Do I need the next one right now? No. But I had a good time with it. It was good brain candy, which is what I wanted it to be. It's like a cheeseburger book, you know. I'm not reading it for practical reasons. I'm reading it because my brain is good. It did what I wanted it to do. I liked the evolution that we get throughout this of the way that the friendships work, of the way the romance worked, of the way that we satirize society through a modern lens. So the same way that Jane Austen would satirize her society contemporarily, this one is now satirizing, at least that's the vibe I'm getting, satirizing this society through a modern lens. So we're inserting characters with more modern values to an extent. We're inserting characters who potentially would not have behaved or thought the way that they are thinking in this book. And that's deliberate. Like, it doesn't feel misplaced. Like, sometimes you'll read books like this and it will feel super misplaced because it's just like, but that's not how people were raised. That's not the society that people were raised in. And at the end of the day, we are most of the time a product of our own society. So I thought that this one did a good job of kind of letting the reader know that it's aware that it's doing this, that it's being anachronistic, and that that's kind of deliberate, while at the same time not doing it to the extent that it completely takes you out of the story, which a lot of them do, because they're trying to pretend that it's a historically accurate society until they can't be fucked with it because they want to actually know we're going to do our own thing and ignore the conventions of this society. This one felt deliberate from the get-go, like it knew what it was doing, and I appreciated that. So I had a great time with it. Glad to have read it, and on to the next one. Now, I am still reading my ebook. I'm reading Alpha, which is written by my friend Kris. The vlog for Chris's like recommendations where he takes over my TBR will have gone up before this one, so I'll leave that linked, which is where I started reading this. I'm still reading it, but obviously with being in pain and like not feeling very well because of the pain, I haven't been concentrating as much as I would like on that one. So I think I'm going to go for another light read, in which case I'm probably going to start the Evie Dunmore one. I'm probably going to go dive into this one. This just feels like I might as well continue the vibe. This one's Victorian. This one is a university setting as well. We're following a woman who has been accepted into like a women's section of the University of Oxford. This is Oxford, and I think it was Oxford that accepted women later. When's this set? Does it say 79? Is that right? I thought it was the 80s. Maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, we're following a woman who wants to be accepted into this university, and she gets like it paid for her. She gets it paid for her by the Society of Women, who are trying to promote education in women, but on the basis that she needs to help convince certain lords, because this is when the House of Lords was actually made up of people who genuinely were part of the nobility. She needs to convince some lords to help with a bill that leans more towards the suffragette movement's rights. Now, the suffragette movement itself didn't actually happen until the 1910s. I think it was 1910 actually where it was officially founded as the suffragettes. So I'd be very interested to see if they are called suffragettes in here, or if it is just, discussing kind of women's rights, like the early beginnings of it. The font in this one is considerably smaller, so even though it is thinner, I think that the pages are thinner, they seem thinner, and the font is smaller. So I feel like this one's going to take me longer. So we'll see how I fare with it. It might be like super addictive, because again, like Tessa Dare ones, I've read a 400-page Tessa Dare book in an evening before. So if it's addictive, I'll read it quickly. If not, then it might take me the rest of the week. Who even knows? But I'm excited to get into it. So let's stop yapping and get to reading. vlog. It is Thursday, so I thought I needed to check in again. I was going to check in last night, but I didn't really have very much to say because I haven't gotten a huge amount of the way into this. I am 56 pages into Bringing Down the Duke. I did read some of Alpha, which is the ebook that I'm currently reading, which is written by my friend Kris, and I'm really liking that one, but because I'm in pain, my concentration is just not ideal, so I'm just taking my time with that one. And then I read some of that this morning as well. It's afternoon now, so that means that I have only gotten 50 odd pages into this one. I am going to go sit and read this now for a bit though. But for Alpha, so far I am really liking the way this story is told. I said so I think in my Kris vlog that I love the way that this is the voice, I suppose, is used for our character in here. And it's not that he's an unlikable character, that's a bit harsh. I don't feel like my hand is being forced. I don't feel like I am being told what a lovely guy this is, that he is going to be our favorite person in the world. He feels like a person that we are following. Our interest in him, our like or dislike of him are mutually exclusive. That we don't have to love him to be interested in the story. We don't have to love him, have the same responses and reactions to things as he does, while at the same time finding him interesting. So he's not someone that I think is amoral. He's not someone that I dislike. He's not someone that I think there is anything wrong with. But he's not someone I am being told I should love. He is someone who is a person who has baggage, who is complicated, who has a complicated relationship with his family, with his friends, with his life, and is in a world that is complicated. And I like the level of complexity that we're having with that. So at the moment I'm enjoying it. I'm not very far in, as I said, like I'm just not having a good time. I have had a migraine all day today. Whenever my stomach is not great, eventually migraines will happen. So I'm not even due on. Normally my migraines are linked to my menses, but they do also happen with other triggers, and an upset stomach is one of them. And obviously my tummy's not been great because antibiotics. I meant that this morning I ended up having to have a stomach protector, my antibiotics, my anti-inflammatories, my pain meds, and my migraine meds. I rattle like a fucking maraca at the minute. It's really not fun. I mean, I'm still functional. Like, you know, took the kids to school today, got stuff done today. So it's like, it's not like it's affecting my functionality. It's just tiring. So tired of being in pain is more the thing. Like, it's not affecting my daily life in the sense of like, I can't function. Like, again, I went out today. I got a little bit of work done today. I function fine. The meds do their thing. Just so tired of being in pain is more the thing. So it just kind of makes me grumpy more than anything. So then it like affects my reading and stuff. So I'm hoping that just settling down now for the evening, like afternoon and evening until dinner time, I can get a huge chunk of this done. Not even 5 yet. So I've got like a good 3 hours, I guess, of reading time for this before dinner time. So hopefully I can get like a load of this done and I can chill and unwind for a bit. So that's what I'm going to go do. But I thought I'd check in. Liking the little bit that I have read. It has a relatively typical setup. We've had like that not great first encounter between the protagonist and what I assume will be the love interest. We've had her meeting the other women from this society. Nothing new and unsurprising, but the writing style's compulsively readable. The protagonist is digestible. So let's continue and see what my thoughts are. So I have finished a book. I'm about to start another one, so I thought I would check in. I finished Bringing Down the Duke last night. This was an interesting one because the love interest in this one doesn't do anything for me. I don't agree with him on a lot of things as well. Like, I don't particularly like him. That doesn't mean that I dislike the book. This is something that I've had before with one of the Tessa Dow ones, with The Night to Surrender, where I didn't really care about the love interest in that one either. So it's an odd one because with this, I really liked the characters, and like, it's not even that I disliked the love interest, I just didn't like him as a love interest because he's not someone that does it for me. So it was a really interesting experience to be reading a romance where you're not particularly rooting for the romance, but you are rooting for the characters still. I like some of the quotes in here, especially around the likes of suffragettes and suffrage in general, and the way that society works during this time period. period and the social divides. And there are kind of quotes like the one you get in Enola Holmes, that one that everyone loves sharing, of you have no interest in politics because you have no interest in changing a world that suits you so well. There are lots of quotes along those lines in here. Also, we have our protagonist quoting a lot of like philosophers and intellectuals and stuff, which I think is going to grate on some people, but I quite enjoyed it. I really liked reading that, I'm not gonna lie. It's an interesting one because I enjoyed the story and I'm really excited to continue, but I wasn't actually fussed about the love interest. It's got 4 stars. I had fun with it. I read it really quickly once I actually sat down and dedicated the time to it. So hopefully I will feel similarly, if not even more so, about the next books. For now though, I am going to pause my romance binge because I think I'm romanced out now. I think I finally hit that point where it's like, okay, that's enough of the romance now. So I've decided I'm going to go back to my true love and I'm going to go continue on with some fantasy. So I'm going to be starting The Sword Unbound by Gareth Hanrahan. This is the second book in the Lands of the Firstborn. This is a story in which we have a group of people who, in their youth, together they defeated an evil, Fellowship of the Ring style. And then in the first book, an evil in that area where the previous source of power, like I think Mordor, is arising again, and they need to kind of like get the band back together and stop this evil from happening. I have heard mixed things about this one, so we'll see, because I was surprised by how much I liked the first one. The first one I read as a taste test. It was part of my Draconathon vlog, I think, where I read the first book in multiple series that I was wanting to try, or books that I was wanting to try that I wasn't sure if they would be my thing, but because they were dragon books, they still interested me enough. And I actually really liked the first book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Now I know, so I received that book from Matt. Matt gifted me that book because she didn't like the sequels. So I picked up the sequels anyway, because obviously me and Matt are not the same person. But obviously I'm going into this one a lot more trepidatious. Should this be my return to fantasy, a book that I'm very hesitant about? Probably not, but I'm going to anyway. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing where we're at with this, because where the last book left off was quite exciting. My favorite character in these books is the sword. I know that sounds ridiculous, but Alf, our protagonist, has this like magical sword that is evil. It's kind of like the One Ring in a way, where it has a will, but this has a literal voice, like he can talk to the sword, and the sword is fun. I enjoy the sword. I also would go to the dark side for this sword. So I'm really curious to see where all the characters are after where we left off. I don't know if we're going to jump in like immediately after the end of book 1, or if there's going to be a little bit of a time jump or whatever. I have no idea. So the best thing I can do is stop yapping and start reading.
Someone cries. Are you staying by his bowl? Are you smiling?
You can't have tea, Gigi. It's tea. I was going to check in last night when I got a bit of the ways into the Sword and Bound, but I don't really have a huge amount to say. I feel like this book is really meandering. It's not that it doesn't really have a direction. I'm sure it does. It just feels like we're going in the most roundabout way to get there to bulk up the story. I don't feel like I'm invested in anything. Obviously, I normally binge read fantasy, so I don't know if this is like a product of the fact that I didn't pick this up right after book 1, that there's a bit of gap in between. But it's not that I don't remember the characters particularly, it's that they're not resonating with me the same way. I think the thing is as well, is a lot of the time with epic fantasy, especially quest style epic fantasy, is that normally the first book is the more questy one, and then after that we start to get into meatier stuff, and we are slightly, but I expected, I guess, more depth from this one than we got in the first one. But it seems the inverse is true. I feel like we got more depth in the first one than we do in this one. This one feels even more questy and more meandering and more, we're just going from place to place to find the people that Alf knows. And I wish I cared more about the characters, because I think that would make the tedium of the plot that happens at times feel less irritating if I cared more about the characters. But even the characters from book one that I had grown to like this wasn't a series that I picked up on the basis of like the characters being the best thing. Like, I really like the sword, I do really like Oliver. Alf is an interesting enough protagonist, actually, given that a lot of the time protagonists of these are about as dull as dishwater. But in this one, I just don't feel like I care. I don't feel like I'm getting more invested in anything, which is kind of the point of a sequel, right? Is to bring you into the world more, to carry you along with the plot more, to make you care more about the characters. But in reality, I feel like I've just plateaued on the character level and world building level. And then I feel like plot wise, it's losing me a little bit. Now, again, I knew that this potentially wasn't going to be as good because Mare didn't like this one. So I am really hoping that it's a case of middle book syndrome, which is entirely possible. Given my critiques of it, it is entirely possible that it is just the fact that it is a middle book that is trying to tide us over until the big climax of the third book. I don't know. I'm not sure how much we're going to get out of this book in terms of any kind of development aside from introducing us to a few more characters and things. I genuinely don't know. So I'll have to wait and see. So for now, I'm just kind of plodding along, really, and we'll see where I end up with this one. I'm hoping that I will end up having a good time with it, that it will pick up in the second half and make me really excited to read the third one, but I don't know. At the moment, I'm a bit ambivalent. So glad that I am still here, and it looks like I've just not moved all day, but my kids, when they're home, they'll have, so here is a little bit of refuge. I figured I would check in because I have done some reading. I am now 391 pages into The Sword Unbound, so I have about 200 pages left to go, so I am hoping I will be able to finish this either tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how busy I am this evening. I don't have a huge amount more thoughts. I have found the middle of this to be very slow going. I think that this would be a slog for a lot of people. I'm not finding it a slog. I just am not particularly riveted either. It doesn't feel necessarily like a chore, but I also don't really feel like I'm getting much out of it anyway. So I don't know. We'll see what the last 200 pages hold. But I did also stop reading that for a little bit, and I read Witches, The History of Persecution, I think it's called. I needed to read a nonfiction for my year in ALDA prompt for this month. I saw that one was free on Kindle and I picked it up. And I've read it. It was interesting. It was terribly written. And I don't mean this is like, it's one of those that is a non-fiction that is very much just trying to present you. It read like a dissertation. It read like a dissertation that could have done with a bit more editing and possibly even a bit more proofreading. Like, it wasn't written as a book, almost. So for anyone who is not interested in this topic particularly, it's not one that I would recommend. But it was interesting. Some of the hypotheses in there were quite cool. I guess the parallels that are drawn, because it was talking about the idea of witch hunts in general, not just about like the Salem ones, but the history of this idea of this craze of persecuting a group of people, and the way that it normally goes about, where you need to invent an otherness because there isn't one, so you have to pretend there is one. In the case of Salem or North Berwick, it's witches. In the case of McCarthyism, it's communism. There's always this ability to other people, and how that has now become synonymous, how the idea of a witch hunt has now in turn become synonymous with hunting down people out of paranoia and control, a mixture of both. So I found it interesting. It's not one that I would say go read. It's not one that I would recommend, but it's not one I would deter you from either. Like, it's not like, oh my God, this is awful. I think the things it presented were interesting. I just think that it was, again, presented more as like a dissertation than as a book. And that's on you. You know, that's up to what kind of reading you're interested in, really, more than anything. But yeah, I thought I'd check in because, again, I've read a book. I don't think I'm going to rate it because it's not that kind of book. Again, I'm not even sure it was written as a book. So I'm just not going to rate that one. And then this one, I will hopefully be done soon. I will be able to give you a rating. I wish I felt more strongly about it. I wish I had more to say about it as well. Sometimes like with books like this, where I'm like, yeah, it's fine, I have less to say. Like, I was hoping I would have more things to say on this one, but I just don't. I had more to say on my quick, easy romances than I do on a sequel and epic fantasy series, and that's not ideal. Hey vlog, I am here to check in for one final time because I have in fact finished The Sword Unbound. I finished this yesterday afternoon, and then I've also finished Alpha by K.D. Marchesi, which I read last night. So let's talk a little bit about the books. First off, I did finish The Sword Unbound and I've given this 3 stars. I can't say that this book is outright bad, and it's not even like it's 100% middle book syndrome. It's a bit. There is a bit of just trying to get people in the right place ready for book 3. There is also the questy adventure that I just think we already did kind of in book 1 and did it better. So I am just unfussed about the way it goes in this one. It feels like a little bit of a rehash of book 1 but diluted. And I also found that the characters felt watered down in this one compared to in the first one. I feel like with all of the character development that we had over the course of the entire book had gone back to square one. So this one felt like it was almost rehashing book 1 to an extent, which I just didn't really see the point of. So it's more just that this book felt a bit pointless. It meandered a lot in the middle, and I don't know, I wish I liked it more, is kind of where I'm at. So it's fine. I'm not like jumping for joy. I'm not like dying to go read the next book, you know? It's fine. And then I also read Alpha. Now, I have a huge amount of bias in this book. I have watched Kris create updates on his channel about this book for what feels like at least a year. This book being in existence and me finally being able to read it means a lot to me. So there's no way I could give you a review that isn't biased. Kris is my friend, and I don't think of Kris as just my friend on BookTube. Like, Kris is my friend. He is someone I talk to about personal matters. He is someone that I trust and confide in, someone who I want to meet up with, who, if he weren't on a different continent, I feel like I would see on a weekly basis. So again, the bias is there both for the book and me watching it grow and for the author. So it makes it complicated when it comes to reviewing. Not in sense of my enjoyment, but to try and be honest with my bias and still be able to tell you that this is a phenomenal book. Now, this is Kris's debut, and you can tell that Kris has done so much alpha and beta reading, because a lot of the flaws that you'll see in a debut aren't quite so prevalent in this book. And again, I'm not putting that down to because Kris is the best. It is because Kris has honed his craft through helping others hone their craft. He does a huge amount of alpha and beta reading, so he will have seen those pitfalls. So again, it's not just Kris is the best. I mean, he is, but that's not the point. It is very much that I think that you can see that he's learned from others, you know? The editing in this is fantastic. His editor / wife, Rachel, fantastic. You know, again, another thing that you can always see in self-pub is that they're self-pub. Now, I'm not saying this one you can't see that it's self-pub. At the end of the day, traditionally published books, at least used to, have an entire team of people behind them. Kris doesn't have a huge team of people. He doesn't have a whole imprint behind him. But what he does have is dedication of himself and his wife, and it shows. You know, it shows the amount of work that's gone into this book. But I think that for me, the message of the story is what is most all-encompassing for me, because it's about personhood. about your own personhood. And it's such an important message to be put out there. Like, it's a survivalist dystopia. It's quite a unique take on survivalist dystopia to an extent, but it's not reinventing the wheel. We've got some really interesting characters. Our protagonist is fantastic because he's not like, I can't say he's unlikable because I like him, but he's not necessarily your protagonist that you normally have where they're this kind of perfect being or this bland being that's there to be a self-insert. This character is a person. He feels flawed, you know, he's a bit spoiled, he's got a temper, but at the same time you like him, you know, and he's a good person inside, and that's what's kind of at the most core of this. And then we have our secondary characters. We've got Delia, who's fantastic. I loved reading her. We've got Argo. I love Argo. He's my favorite character in this book. I could talk about this book for hours just on characters alone, but I think for me, I really do appreciate the story that Kris is trying to tell and the message that comes with that, and that is told through these wonderful and diverse and real feeling characters. Just kind of adds to that. I would say, like I said before, it's not, the setup is not unique. So if you're someone who normally only reads dystopia because they've got something completely new that they're bringing to the table, that's not what this book is about. It's taking something that we've seen before within survivalism. You could take Battle Royale and put it in the island of Dr. Moreau to an extent, I guess. Maybe like even in like a hint of, not Lord of the Flies because it's not children, but like along those vibes as well. But fascinating in the way it's combined those layers, and I think that's equally important. I would highly recommend you check it out. The book will be out by the time this vlog goes up. It goes up on the day that my Kris vlog goes up, so I think that's the 20th, if I'm not misremembering. Go check out Alpha if you're wanting a new feeling dystopia and you want to support queer authors and you want to support creators here on BookTube, and you want to see the other side of this, you know, someone who has been doing all of this beta and alpha reading, all of this reviewing, how has he honed that craft into his own works? I would recommend you check it out. So for this vlog, therefore, I have read Alpha, which I gave 5 stars. I was probably never going to give it any less than 5 stars based on what I know of Kris, the way he approaches reviewing books, as well as the message intended within this story, but also just because I really enjoyed the way it was told. The Sword Unbound, which got 3 stars, it was fine. I would not go out of my way to tell you to read this series based on this one. We'll see how the third one wraps it up. Is it a middle book syndrome or a downward spiral? We shall see. Reputation, which I ended up giving 4 stars. This was a blast. This was so much fun. I really did enjoy this. Is it going to be one of the most memorable Regencies I've read? Probably not, but it was a fun time and I had a great time. I'm Bringing Down the Duke, which I have also given 4 stars. Overall, really loved the premise of this. Would have liked to have been a little bit more in love with the love interest in this one, but I had a great time, especially when we're talking about women in academia and stuff as well. Very preachy, but I loved it anyway. But there you have it. That's everything that I have read for this vlog. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of these and your thoughts on them. Let me know if based on my liking of these, if you have any other recommendations. And yeah, I will hopefully catch you in another video soon. So thank you so much for watching.